All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Tuesday evening training. We're in the US at the moment and it's bright daylight. So it's beautiful out here. We came to the beach and it's been really, really awesome. So today we want to talk to you guys about 10 points on how to stay consistent in your business. Okay. So make sure that you all get yourself a notebook. We're not going to do a PowerPoint, which we typically do. We're going to actually give you points, and what you want to do is you want to actually write these down. Because a lot of times when you actually write things down, it sinks into your subconscious mind in a much bigger way. And you can actually go back to your notes and refer to them again. And you can also do this training with your own team, all right? So take a few minutes, get yourself your notebooks, get your pens ready, and then we will get started. All right, so I'm sure a lot of us, when we're doing our own business, like one thing that I find is the biggest challenge that I personally faced when I, started my business was that when you are your own boss, you literally have no one that you're accountable to. So it's a lot of times really easy to show up in a job because you're afraid that you'll get fired or things like that, right? You're afraid of your boss. But when you're running your own business, it's really easy to just let go, and you have no idea how to actually discipline yourself or how to create that consistency, right? So this is a very important topic for anyone that's doing business. So when it comes to consistency, there is things that we really need to be aware of, and that's what we're going to talk about today. And there are structures that you need to put in place to make sure that you can be consistent in your business, okay? So point number one, and you can write this down, that do you have a really clear vision for the next few months? Do you have clear goals for yourself for the next few months? So having clarity is really important, because anytime you don't actually have clarity on what you're creating for the next few months or what you're actually looking at creating in the next year, like you don't have any clarity around that, you're definitely not going to get there. Because if you don't know where you're going, say if you're in your car and you don't know where you're going, are you going to get anywhere? Not really. So having clarity is the most important thing. You want to add anything to that point?
Well, what you were saying there is it's like the GPS, right? So if you're gonna leave from somewhere, and you have to have a particular destination that you have in mind. And I think one of the beautiful things about the USANA compensation plan is it's actually built for 13-week increments, so 13 increments in the year, which means there's always a future Diamond Academy, there's always a trip that you can qualify for. So the reason why USANA does that is because you can constantly keep a carrot out in front of you that keeps you motivated, so that there's something that you're working towards. Because it's great to have a 1-year goal, 5-year goal like that, right? But you have to be able to block it down and chunk it down. So I think the ability to stay consistent is really, obviously, it's one of the key components when it comes to being successful in the business.
Yeah. So that's clarity is point number one. Now, point number two is dream boards. Now, the thing to know about dream boards is it actually activates the RAS. Now, what is RAS? RAS is the reticular activating system. What it means is that this actually tells you, this is a part of your brain that tells you what's most important for you and what to look for. So anytime you create a dream board, say for example, if you put a picture of a red car on your dream board, You will literally, from that point onwards, your brain will get locked in on that red car. And everywhere that you go, you will see red cars going by everywhere because your brain is now locked in on that thing. And that RAS, the reticular activating system, is going to actually keep reminding you what's most important to you, which is the red car. So having a dream board is extremely important. Like, I can't tell you how important it is, because once you start putting pictures of your goals, things that you really are creating in your life, your brain is going to really lock in on those things and keep reminding you ongoingly that this is what you're creating. And you'll start looking out for those things everywhere you go. So it's really, really important, and it has a lot of value. Okay. So also, when it comes to dream boards, what you want to do is you want to put mantras on there. Like, you want to say, for example, if there's a belief that you know that you have, that's really a limiting belief for you, it's really good to take that limiting belief and write the opposite of that. Say, for example, I'm not good at business. You just write the opposite. I am good at business, or I can learn anything if I want to, right? And you put it on your dream. That will be like an ongoing reminder for you to keep that in mind, that, oh yeah, I can learn anything. I can learn anything. And that's something that your mind can actually do as well. And you'll start really believing that and developing.
Dua-duanya, cuman kan kalau Mas ini gap gimana mau dua-duanya sistem atau
iya, dua-duanya sekalian. Nanti aku udah waktu langsung tak pilihin.
We're just going to mute everybody.
Oh, siap.
Jadi monster nanti sendiriin berapa kali yang Mas mau dibuatin, tak buatin, ya toh? Hello?
No, we've still got someone.
Guys, can you just mute your phones, please?
Halo.
Looks like, yep, that one. We're just going to mute everyone. We're just checking. Okay, it's much better.
Yeah, I think the important thing when it comes to the reticular activating system is it's an automatic process, so you don't have control over it, right? So
yeah.
Once you get the program in there, your brain will just go out and start looking for more red cars or more opportunities to do presentations, whatever the thing is.
Yeah.
The reason why the visual displays are so important is because the visual display is a reminder to your brain what it is that you're trying to create. Because when you wake up every day, a lot of times we forget what it is that our goals are, right?
Yeah.
So if we keep it on a visual display in front of us, that's letting our brain know what we should be looking for, and then when you go out into the world, it will just work automatically. But you need these things set up so that it's a constant reminder.
Yeah, so important. Now, point number 3 is your why. Getting very clear on why you want to do this business. Like, what do you really want to create out of it? So the thing to know is that any time in life, we will do what is most important to us. Okay, so like, for example, let's say you are super busy, you're completely packed, your whole schedule, like, you have no time at all, right? But if your toilet breaks down, what's gonna happen? You will make time to get that toilet fixed, whether you have time or whether you don't have time, right? Because that is really important. That's something that you really need to use every single day, right? And it has an impact on you. So when you start creating a very deep connection with why you are doing this, you'll realize that you can create time to work on your business, to do those activities that normally your brain will think that, oh, I don't really have time to do this today. But if you make it very important, if you get clear about why it's important, you will find time.
Yeah, and it comes and it's internal, right? So a lot of times people, they want their upline to be around. They want to, they want other people to be around. They want to be listening to personal development, all of that stuff, which is really important. But a lot of that is motivation. So it's something that comes from external and you get excited and then you take action. So personal development is really important, right? Because it's good to be motivated and keep getting excited about what you're doing. But the why is something that's internal, right? So it's something that actually pulls you. So when you're really clear about why you want something, then it's much easier because your motivation is coming from inside. You don't necessarily come from the outside. So that goes back to the clarity as well. I think a big part of it is just self-awareness, knowing what motivates you. Does money motivate you, right? That's not good or bad. It's just important to know, does money motivate you? Does traveling motivate you? Does recognition motivate you? Does, more quality time with your family motivate you? And it's really important that's why it's important to write these things down, right? Because everybody's motivated by different things. It doesn't matter what your motivation is, right? One's not better than the other. What's important is that you know what your motivation is, right? So that you can be self-aware and you can learn to motivate yourself from internally, because your upline may not always be around, right? Your mentor may not always be around. You can't have, these YouTube videos and things playing in your ears all the time. So you have to take that external stuff and then make it internal. And that's why the why is so important.
Yeah, I mean, for a long time, I wasn't clear about my why. And that was the reason I would find it so difficult to actually work on my business. Every single, like, my brain used to come up with so many excuses on why I can't do it today, or why I'm not able to do this or that. That when I got really clear about what I really want to create out of my business, it's like day and night. Now it's like I know where I'm going. I know what I need to create, why I'm doing this, and that's been like a real motivating factor for me to make sure no matter what, certain things need to happen in my business. Okay, so next point that we have here is get really honest with yourself. So anytime you say that I can't do something, try and replace the word can't with won't. Okay, I won't do this. I won't. So I can't do invites today because I'm too busy. Replace that with I won't do invites today. Because that way, in that, like, if you say I won't do something, you can still choose not to do it. But you actually, because you're saying that I won't do it, you become aware that you're choosing not to do it, not because you somehow don't have the capacity to do it. When you say I can't do something, that literally stops you because you can't do it. You don't have the ability to do it, right? But when you switch it with won't, you become aware of why you are not doing it is because you won't do it. And it brings the responsibility back on you. And then you know that, okay, if I'm not getting the results is because I won't take action, right? So it's very, very small distinction, but it's very powerful. When you really do that, you get super connected with the fact that, wow, I am not making time. And that's my responsibility, right? Do you want to add to that, and maybe?
Well, I think the honesty part comes back to the self-awareness, because the reality is if you're not making the income that you want to make, or you're not growing as fast as you want, the reason is because you're not prospecting and inviting people.
Yeah.
Right? You're not doing your DMO. So a lot of times, this is the way that our brain works, right? We have certain goals, we get excited about things, and then if we're not taking action, we'll either make our goals smaller, or we'll make excuses for why we haven't gotten to where we're going. But very rarely do we just be honest with ourselves and say, actually, I'm not growing as well as I would like to because I'm not putting in the work. And it doesn't mean you beat yourself up, right? Because right now you can just, you look yourself in the mirror and you decide, am I doing the work that I need to do in order to grow, right? And if the answer is no, you don't beat yourself up over that, right? You just be honest about where you are and then get clear about where you're going. And then you just have to take action. So one of the strategies that we can use, and I'm sure we'll talk about accountability at some point, is you just figure out, okay, if I'm going to be successful in this business, I have to be able to prospect, right? Which we talked about last week, invite, I have to be able to present, and I have to be able to follow up. And I have to be able to do those things independently of whoever my mentor is. So you have to rate yourself in each one of these areas, be really honest with yourself about where you're at, and then communicate it to somebody else, right? Not only be honest with yourself, but then also share that with somebody else. That way you can work on creating that accountability. But the first step is actually honesty, just being 100% transparent and clear with yourself and also with your coach about what you are or aren't doing. Yeah. So that way you can then, exactly what you said, take responsibility for that. Otherwise, if you're not honest, you're just walking around with blinders on, and that doesn't help you or anybody else.
And I find like it creates so much anxiety sometimes. Like it's kind of like, oh my God, when you're not being honest and you're not telling the truth about something, you literally don't have the space to create something new from a clear space, because you're hiding. You're either like trying to hide it from your mentor, your sponsor, like, no, I am trying to do, like, you're showing everyone that you are trying to do the work, but you know that you're not. And that whole process of trying to hide, I know, because I do that. Like, my brain would just, anytime I'm not taking action, I'll like start pretending like I'm doing so much, and my brain just goes into this thing where I'm like, oh no, I'm doing so much, and I'll like start sharing with people about all these different things that I'm doing, but I know that I'm not doing the thing that I really need to be doing,
Yeah.
And it creates so much anxiety. And until I actually come out and say that, I usually will talk to Nathan or with Deep, and I'll be like, guys, I'm just not, I have not been doing this thing, and I need to be doing it, and I really need help. Like, this is something that I come to Nathan a lot about, that, oh my God, like, I need consistency. That's like something that I ongoingly keep working on, So, but it helps to actually get honest with myself about it. And then once I'm honest with myself about it, I can actually talk to other people about it and get honest with them. And I always find that it lifts the weight off of me. And I feel like, okay, I'm ready to go take action and do something now, but until that point, it's like hiding, trying to make it, and it doesn't work. Okay, so
because you can lie to yourself, but you also can't lie to yourself at the same time.
Yeah.
Right. You can make excuses, but deep down you actually know what's true. So it's better just to be honest about it, because it takes away that anxiety and that disempowerment.
Yeah. Okay. Point number 5 is schedule it. So this is something that Marie Forleo, she has an amazing YouTube channel. You guys should follow her. She says this all the time. If it's not scheduled, it's not real. So if you didn't schedule something, if you said that, okay, I will say I'll do an event, and you say that to yourself, you say that to your sponsor, I'll set up an event. But if you didn't schedule time to actually do the event, then it's not real. It's not going to happen. So it's really important that everything that you can write down everything that you need to do, and then take the time to put it in your calendar and schedule time to do that, and then make sure that you actually follow that schedule. Because if you don't schedule time to do that, trust me, life is coming at you all the time. It can be your dog, it can be your kids, it can be your family, it can be your anything. It can be a restaurant, a new friends. It can be anything. Life is ongoingly coming at us. And if we don't schedule our time, if we don't make the time to actually put in those things into our calendar, it's not going to happen. Okay?
Well, because you're actually always by default going to do what you feel like doing. And very rarely is what you feel like doing what you should be doing or what you gave your word to in that instance. So when you schedule it, it becomes real. And then, because if just think about when you were in school, right? The reason why they give you deadlines and you have to bring your homework in and whatever is because a lot of times we're not really propelled into action until there's a deadline and it becomes real.
Yeah.
Once there's a deadline and it becomes real, then you're like motivated to do it, right? Because you don't want to look bad or you don't want to let somebody down or whatever. So that's why scheduling is so important, because exactly what you said is right. If it's not scheduled, it's not real. We can probably do a whole nother training on that, because I actually believe that the ability to block schedule, so break your day down into small chunks, is if not one of the most important that people that are high performers do. Because the reality is, as you start growing your team and you start growing and you take on leadership and more comes on your plate, right? Regina can, I'm sure, share about this. The more you can't keep everything in your head or you'll forget everything, right? It's like trying to juggle 50 balls at once, right? You're going to drop them all. You know what I mean? So, but if you have a schedule and everything's there, all of your appointments to yourself, like meditation, exercise, all of those things that are important for your own personal life, and then all of your appointments, if they're scheduled in, you don't have to remember anything. Right? Yeah. And so that makes your life so much easier, and you'll find actually that you're able to do much more than you think you do. Because just like we said last time, we're really not honest with ourselves about what we're doing, right? And if there's no schedule, then you'll get sucked into Facebook for 2 hours without even knowing it, right? But if you have things blocked out and you know that you should be doing other things, it'll also, again, getting back to the reticular activation system as well. If you look at your schedule and it's blocked out, then your brain is locked in. It knows what it's going to be doing. If there's a lot of white space, which means non-scheduled time, then it's like your brain will just go on like a mini vacation, because there's nothing for it to focus on. So I think bringing that structure is actually what creates less pressure and more freedom.
Yeah. Okay, so point number 6 is distraction is real. Okay, you want to write this down. Distraction is real. We are more distractible these days than we have ever been in the history before. So recognize that it's everywhere and find a way to limit that distraction. You'll find that most people, just like Nathan said, you'll sit down, you'll open your Facebook, and 2 hours are gone. We get so distracted with so many different things. And if you don't actually consciously recognize that distraction is real and it's coming at you, and you don't put some kind of structure in place, it's just like you just keep floating. And then, like for me, I'll just sit there and I'll be like, wow, I've been so busy. What did I do? And I can't even remember what I did. I'll be like, what did I do all day today? No idea.
Easiest thing to do is, the number one thing I believe that you can do in order to do this is there's 2 things. One is you could actually take out a journal one day and just write down all the stuff that you do. You will be astounded how inefficient that you are with your time. Really, when I sat down and did this, it was like shocking. I thought, oh, I'm so busy, I'm doing all these things, and then you actually write down what you're doing, and it's like a fraction of what you think you're doing in your mind. And the other thing that's super important is turn off the notifications in your phone. I have noticed, even for myself, right, and I'm pretty disciplined with these things, if I'm feeling a little bit frustrated or annoyed or anxious about what I'm doing, I love it when that notification comes in, your email, your whatever, and then you click on that email and it's like this course on manifesting or whatever, and you're like, oh, that's interesting. And then boom, you just get sucked right back into that hole. And it takes like 45 minutes. Once your attention is interrupted, it takes like 45 minutes scientifically to get your focus back on what you were doing. And so if you have that notification coming through all the time, and it's Facebook, it's WhatsApp, it's Instagram, it's like your ability to focus on one thing is shattered. And multitasking is a myth. It is an illusion. We actually know scientifically now that the brain cannot do multiple things at once. So you do not want to pride yourself on being a multitasker, because what that means is you spend a lot of time doing a whole bunch of things and nothing gets done. So most of us are in that camp where we have 10 things that we're doing, and then 2 weeks later, none of them get completed because we're spending a lot of time, half-assing, sorry about the language, a bunch of different things. Whereas if you can systematically get rid of those distractions, you'll be less tired, there'll be less mental fatigue going on, you'll be way more productive with your time. So write down what you're doing, and then please turn off the notifications on your phone. There is no message that's coming through on your Instagram or your Gmail that is more important than what you're doing in that present moment. So do not allow yourself to get tricked by this idea. This has happened to me many times, that, oh, what if I miss this message, or I need to be really, those messages are not going anywhere. You know what I mean? So I think that's just really important.
And another thing about distraction is that a lot of times we don't even realize it, but distraction actually creates anxiety. So anytime you're sitting with your phone or you're looking at Instagram or Facebook, a lot of times we don't even realize it, but because our brain is so distracted in like so many different places at the same time, it creates anxiety. So anytime you want to start being more aware of how you're feeling, okay? Anytime you really start to feel like you're sitting with your phone and you have this like anxiety bubbling up, you want to turn it off, put it aside, take a break. Because that is a sign that you really need to center back in and literally be like, okay, I need a break. Like your brain needs a break in that moment. And if you don't do that, like these days, more and more people are dealing with anxiety. Why do you think that is? There's so much fear and anxiety all the time because we are so distracted. We're constantly looking at other people's lives and how that's so much better than my life. And it like keeps on going in your head. And at some point you're kind of like, oh my God, this is crazy and I have all this anxiety. So
well, the science is actually really clear. So what happens is dopamine is something that gives you a feeling of like excitement. So anytime, that's why people get addicted to anything, is because it gives you that quick hit of dopamine. And so you get that like little level of excitement. And then what happens is every time a notification comes, we actually get one of these like dopamine hits. And when you hit on that, you get that excitement. But the problem is you get stuck in this loop of constantly having these little, what they call dopamine hits, and you literally become addicted to notifications, and you get addicted to being distracted. And so our ability to focus diminishes so much because we're constantly stimulated by that. So it's just important. That's why when you get rid of that, you can actually break that loop, and you can be much more present and mindful in your own life. Like if you're looking at your phone the first thing that you wake up in the morning, and you don't allow yourself to sort of move into your day, but you open the WhatsApp and you have 300 messages, immediately your cortisol, which is your stress hormone, will spike, and you're now have just got right into that loop of being inundated by stimulation.
Yeah, it's so important to ground yourself first thing in the morning. Like first thing in the morning, last thing at night, just ground yourself. Take the time. This is going to make a huge difference in your life. Okay? All right. So next point is point number 7. So resistance is real. Okay? This is something like a lot of times, you know, what happens is we all hit resistance. Like I hit resistance. Anytime we take on a new thing in our life, we'll hit resistance. So knowing that that's real and it's gonna happen is really powerful, because if you don't know that resistance is real and it's going to happen anytime you take on a new challenge in your life, what you might actually mistake that resistance for is that it's actually, maybe I'm just not passionate about this,
Or I'm not good enough.
or maybe I'm not good enough, or maybe this is just not for me, you know. But knowing that that resistance, it's kind of like, you know, when you tell yourself, okay, tomorrow morning I'm going to wake up early and I'm going to go to the gym, right? And you know that that's going to make you feel good. But when you wake up in the morning, you're like, oh my God, this is horrible. Like, I don't feel like getting up. But if you just push yourself and get up and go to the gym, you feel so good. So it doesn't mean that going to the gym is not for you. No, it means that that's resistance. It's very different from something that's actually, that contracts you, makes you smaller. That's actually something that's not for you, is very different from hitting resistance. So knowing that is very important, because a lot of times people can they can mix the two up. And when you mix the two up, you might actually be hitting resistance, because uh, the new thing you've taken on in your life is actually pulling you out of your comfort zone. Okay, that's not the same as this is not for me, or this is not my passion. It's just something that your brain is having to expand because you're out of your comfort zone. Okay, so knowing that makes a huge difference, because resistance is going to come at you every single time you take on a new goal or a new thing.
Yeah. And that's why being honest with yourself, like we talked about, is so important, because you can create that mindfulness. So you want to be able to notice, oh, I'm resisting something right now. And then just recognize, if you're resisting something, that means that you have the opportunity to grow, because you're uncomfortable. Your brain is hardwired biologically to keep you small, safe in your box, right? That's what they call the comfort zone. The it's sort of like the area in your neighborhood that you know really well, right? You like to stay within that. And resistance is what builds up every time you get close to the edge of an area where you're not familiar. So when resistance come up, you got to train yourself to know, okay, this is an opportunity for me to grow. Put that aside, move forward. Anytime you go through resistance, it's like when you go to the gym, right? The thing that makes your muscles big is actually the resistance that comes from the heavy weight, right? So each time you get to the point where the weight gets difficult, that's when the resistance is the greatest. And it's also when your muscles grow the most. So when that resistance comes up, if you can train yourself to recognize, okay, this is resistance, this is also an opportunity for me to grow my muscles. And if you can actually get really good at that, you can do anything. It doesn't matter. Sporting events, business, anything. If you can train yourself to overcome resistance, and then you can grow really, really, really fast.
Yeah. Let me just see how we're going on the time. Okay. So we'll be finishing up. We have 3 more points to go. Okay. So point number 8 is consistency. So making sure that you are consistently doing whatever it is, that action that you choose. Say, for example, you decide that, okay, I'm going to invite 2 people every day. All right, I'm going to invite 2 people every day to take a look at the business. Making sure that instead of doing it sporadically, that, oh, today, like, you're excited and you're feeling really good, so let's do 10 today. And then tomorrow, I don't really feel like it. And you don't even do your 2. Okay, so making sure that you create that consistency, that whether you do 10 today, you still need to do your 2 every single day. Why? Because doing that is going to create a habit. When you create a habit, what it's going to do is it's kind of like, you wake up, what do you do for first thing in the morning? You wake up, you go to the bathroom, you brush your teeth. It's a habit. You don't even think about it. So you want to get that good at doing your business by creating these kinds of habits that you don't even think about it. You just know, like, okay, work time, this is what I do. First thing, I'm going to invite 2 people. And that habit is going to support your business long term. Because remember, this is a long term business. You want to create habits that are going to last you long term. So doing sporadic, oh no, I did 10 today, next few days I don't need to do anything, that's not going to help, because you're not creating the habit. The habit is more important than doing 10 today and then none. Okay, so create a consistent habit, whether that's doing your invites, following up, doing your social media, like actually taking the time to post on your social media about the products, sharing with people about your business, all of these things. Write down what are some of the things that you're going to do every day. And we're going to do a training on daily method of operation, like what to do every day as well. So on one of these Tuesdays we'll do that as well, so that you get a good idea of what are some of the things that you need to do every day. But in the meantime, just write down what are some things that you know that you need to do every day. Write them down, give your word to that, and then make sure you start creating that consistency, that habit of doing it every day, just that much, at least. That's your like bare minimum. Okay? You want to add anything?
I think that's good. I mean, it's just like running. If you're, somebody that runs 1 mile a day is going to be way better shape than somebody that runs 8 miles one day a week. They'll actually get crushed, because it's actually, the thing about consistency is it compounds over time. So for example, if you put 1 penny in the bank and you just double it every single day, then after a couple of weeks, it's only like 100. After 2 weeks, it's only like $189. But by the end of 4 weeks, it's $5 million. And that's called the compound effect. So it sort of goes slow for a little while, but it keeps sort of doubling on itself. And then at the end, it becomes this huge thing. But that is only possible through consistency. So the compound effect is actually what this business is all about, right? Network marketing is all about the compound effect, right? 1 person gets 2, they get their 2, that becomes 8, and then that becomes the double over time, and then you get this explosion that happens at some point. But it's only possible with consistency. So if you want the compound effect, you have to be consistent. So it's better to do a few things each day. If you contacted, let's say, 2 people a day, at the end of the month, you'd be in the top like 5. I just watched a podcast about this yesterday. They said if you contact 2, so 2 new people, 2 invites, 2 follow-ups every day, you're in the top 10% of everybody who does network marketing. And the reason for that is because most people really struggle with consistency. So if you can just do little things every day, over time, the results become compounded and huge.
Yeah. Okay, point number 9 is accountability. So setting up ways for you to be accountable. Now you want to think about it for yourself, like figure out what is going to help you stay accountable. Is it that if your sponsor checks in with you every week, about how much activity you did that week? Or is it that having like an accountability buddy is going to help, like someone that you can talk to about this regularly on day-to-day basis? Think about what is going to be the best accountability system for you, and then put that in place.
Yeah, this is why coaches and mentors are so important. Like anybody that goes to the gym, there's 2 things. One is if you have a personal trainer, or you have a buddy, you're like 90% more likely to go to the gym for somebody else than you are for yourself, right? If it's just you and you're going to the gym, you have to, wake up in the morning, put your clothes on, put your shoes on, get ready for the gym. All that time, there's tons of resistance, right? And all along that way, your brain has the opportunity to go, not today, I'll just sleep in, whatever. But if you have somebody that you need to meet to the gym, most of us will go far and away to do more for other people than we will for ourselves. So the accountability creates that structure where even when you don't feel like it, you feel like you have to do it for somebody else. That's very powerful motivating force. The second thing is when you have a personal trainer, you will always do more than you would if you were there by yourself. Like if you're at the gym, you'll stop, if you're supposed to do 15 reps, you'll stop at 10. Because the drive inside for you to do more, it just isn't there. But if your personal trainer's there and they say you can do one more, you can do one more, then you'll put in those extra reps, and actually all the growth happens in those last few reps. So if you don't do them and then you're consistently not doing them over time, your results will be much less than what's possible for you. But when you have a coach or a mentor or someone that says, no, one more, you can do one more, you can do a little bit more. It's amazing where you can be after a year. You guys got mentoring from Carmen and your business had really stalled out for a while. Within 3 months, you went gold.
Yeah.
Just because you have that accountability partner and you have that structure in place.
And even with us, recently I was one day sitting and doing my DMO, and I had followed up with a lot of people that day, and my brain was like, you know what? I've done a lot. I've followed up with all these people. I'm good. And then Nathan comes to me and he's like, have you done your DMO? Because I've told him that consistency is something that I really struggle with and I need help and support. So I've asked him to actually be my accountability buddy and actually check in with me, So he comes and he's like, did you do your DMO? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, show me, what did you do? And I'm showing him, I messaged all of these people again. And he's like, that's not your DMO. You need to contact 5 new people. You can't get up from this chair until you do that. And I was like, resistance. I was like, that, I have been sitting here for an hour doing this, I don't want to do this. But then I just remembered, I'm like, okay, I just need to stop it and follow what he's saying, because he's gonna get me the results that I really want, and my brain is not going to support me in this.
For sure.
So I was like, you know what? Okay, I'm just gonna do it. And I just sat down there and I started contacting new people, and I ended up doing more than 5, what my target was. And it's so much easier, but it's the initial getting over that resistance and then, actually getting in the momentum of things, which is really difficult. So having an accountability buddy that's like, no, you need to do this now, do it. That's it gets you out of that resistance, which is really important. So find yourself an accountability buddy. Now, point number 10 is a mantra. This is something this is a mindset to have, okay? You can write it down. Everything has a solution and you can figure it out. So anytime your brain comes up with this big problem that's really difficult to solve, you just want to put this mantra in your room, somewhere that you see it all the time, so that you can always keep reminding yourself that everything that comes at me has a solution, and I can find that solution. And Marie Forleo, she's recently written a book about it. It's called Everything is Figure-Outable. You can figure it out. And, that is amazing to have that mental attitude about things, because a lot of times our brain can really overwhelm us with problems. It's like, oh my God, this thing is happening, this thing is happening, and this thing is happening, and what am I going to do? And it's like, whoa. But if you just tell yourself, you know what, everything can be figured out, and I can find a solution for this. So Very important, especially when it comes to your limiting beliefs as well. So we have our nephew waving at us from there. Hi, Declan. So another thing to think about is your beliefs. So anytime you're not getting results in an area of your life or your business, you just want to think about, okay, what action am I taking? What are my thoughts about this specific area? What are my emotions that are about this area? Do I feel good about it? Well, like what is something? This is very important to actually uncover different beliefs that you have, and we'll do a more in-depth training about this next time, because I think we're running out of time now. And then when you actually go deeper and deeper with your actions, thoughts, emotions, that's when you can actually identify your beliefs that, oh, this is my belief about this. And if you have a belief about something that's limiting, you're not going to grow in that. So it's really important to identify those. But that's something that we're going to do a whole training on, because this is such an important topic to talk about beliefs. For now, your mantra to put on your wall is, everything has a solution and you can figure it out. Okay?
Great.
You want
All,
that?
everything, all action is belief driven, 100%. So if you're not doing the things that you want, or you're not getting the results that you want, just know that there's a belief underneath of whatever that area is that's holding you back. All action is belief driven, and it's easy to lose perspective. You know, everybody that's on this call, myself included, these guys included, you know, it doesn't matter when you're gold, emerald, ruby, it doesn't matter. You're going to have lots of highs and lows, and you're going to lose perspective. And the idea that everything is figure outable, this idea that everything has a solution and I can find the solution, it brings perspective. You know, because as your business grows, your problems will get bigger, you know, and your brain has the ability to magnify drama and to magnify the problem. And what happens is you lose sight of the fact that actually there are solutions. So, you know, Tony Robbins says you always want to spend 10% of your time looking at whatever the problem is, and then shift immediately and spend the other 90% of your time looking for a solution. If you become a solution-oriented person, that is what an entrepreneur is. The definition of an entrepreneur is a professional solution finder, right? So if you can train your brain to look for solutions and not for more and more problems, then you can become a better version of yourself. But these mantras can really help create that perspective.
Thank you. Okay, so with that, our 10-point training is coming to an end. And I think we're running out of time now. So we're not going to do a product training today. We'll do a product training next week.
Do you want to take questions?
And yeah, so we will open up for questions now, and we'll unmute everybody. So any questions or big takeaways from this training, something that you've learned for yourself? Just who wants to share? All right, if no one has any questions, then we just want to thank you all for being here. And we would love to see you next week. And now we can just take our group picture. Thank you.